I've been asked to explain a little deeper what personal transformation is like. Well, I can give you some of the pieces of what it's like based on what I've experienced, but I need to tell you a story, and it starts with a journey, with a purpose. Oh, that's called an expedition. You've been on one of those before, right? It's a rental car! Every time a fly lands, it pees on you. That's annoying. Screaming children really make your tinnitus just blow up. This kind of shit is annoying. Stop that. God, there it goes again. Because you did what? Ah! And you get triggered, and then what did you say? You were creeping into any one of my episodes by knowing how to trigger me in 100 ways? Even if you find the best hotel available anywhere, you're gonna find that when you open the bathroom door, somebody else's boxers. How's that dinner? God, is it annoying. The reason why there's so many flies inside, we are directly downwind from a cattle yard. That's right. You've heard me numerous times talk about an Everest, an iteration, going round and round and repeating, and that's the better part of self-awareness. There is a bright side of it.
Yes, I am dispersing the energy.
Yeah, right.
Of you annoying
That's got
me.
nothing to do with it. The bright side of becoming self-aware is that at some point it becomes humorous. And at some point, which I'm not sure I'm there yet after 30 years of pursuing this, it's amazing how many things can annoy you when you don't want to be annoyed. Yeah, the speed limit across Idaho is 80, so you can legally do that, which is amazing. And the point I was trying to make was that humans, although we're intelligent, AI is going to surpass that very quickly. And the thing that gives us the upper hand is that we're self-conscious, right? We're aware of our intelligence. Well, okay, some people who have intelligence may also be aware, but do they understand? See, that's where I'm trying to take us. So it's step by step. It's a little up, something triggers you, you ask yourself why, you peel back another layer, you have a memory when you least expect it in a diffuse time, and then it all happens over again. And give it 20, 30 years, maybe you can do it faster than me, but for me it was almost 30 years before I started having pretty strong confidence or feedback from my wife and those around me that, oh, Daniel, he's changing. Well, that's a point worth thinking about. Alright, fine. It's not. Are you seeing the handle in the? It's because it's the way it's.
That's okay. The handle is pointing towards you.
She's trying to help me. It doesn't work. It's all cranky, wonky. Stop. We're on a journey with a purpose. We're headed to Phoenix. We're going to go see some guys. You, probably. And I am being testy this morning. I am being easily triggered. I'm annoyed. Angelina starts the car. Just makes me feel like I have to hustle faster because the car's leaving. But you did it because?
Because when I was growing up, when you started a car for your parent or somebody, it was a way of honoring them, doing something positive for them, not stressing them out to rush them.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry you were wounded by whatever.
Well, because my parents would just go, okay, car started, and they would drive off. She just jumps her ass back into my spotlight. This is my audience I'm talking to. And you think that it's your chance to talk to your audience. You get your phone out.
No, I'm asking you I'm sorry you were wounded.
I am sorry too, I'm aware of that. Now,
Thank you for sharing.
the understanding of that is, I'm going to move on past that because I'm not a child. And you started our car, the rental. It's a rental car. We don't have our Xterra. The transmission blew out. Why? I took perfect care of it because there was a factory defect no one told us about. An expedition, a journey with a purpose, in my experience, gentlemen, is an absolute test of provision to no end, and I have proof of that. So in 2005, I started cycling across America for my first of 3. And this was on the second one, 2006. Great Plains Basin. I'm out of money. I'm doing this on $15 a day. And, well, roll it. Well, here we are. Made it to Utah. If you're in business for yourself, I bet you know what this feels like. Oh boy. Here's something that you don't see every day. I'm like in the middle of nowhere. I mean, literally. And I look down. Let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit. There's a bunch of money laying all around the side of the road. Thank you, God. That's interesting. Bunch of money. $13 just laying on the side of the road. Man, oh man, that's an interesting thing to think about. I want to be sure to relate this story accurately. If you look across the valley that I've just crossed, it's about 25 miles or so that I've been riding now. During that time, I've been having this little conversation with God about provision and what is it that I need to do to take my service to the next level, and it's just basically serving more people. And I'm looking at my totem here, which is sort of a reminder. It's a reminder of God's faithfulness and His provision and all of that. You notice right here, provision of work and finances. And that's about the time I was getting pretty hot and decided to stop and look down. Actually, I decided to stop and take off my jersey, and in the process, looking down, I find $118. That's an interesting one to think about, isn't it? I can't say that I manifested the money, and I certainly didn't have an intention to find it, but I do have a real heart's desire to serve people, and if this little story serves you, then it's a good one for me. I'm, like I said, out here in early Utah. That's an interesting one to think about, how provision shows up when you need it. So we're headed down Highway 15 from Salt Lake and Provo, and I can see the terrain is just like where I found that money, that provision, and I had none. And there's sagebrush, and there's big open plains between mountain peaks. It's pretty amazing. At 80 miles an hour instead of 12. I believe the journey to self-understanding goes through self-awareness. It starts with self-awareness. For me, scarcity has been a consistent part of my life. Not having what I need at the time I need it has always brought emotional strings attached to that reptile brain in there and my amygdalas that have been recording forever. That's usually my triggers. Oh, what are triggers? Well, a trigger is when something happens and your emotional state is disrupted. Every time a fly lands on you, It pees on you. According to the Museum of Natural History in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which I saw the exhibit, it is gross. And ever since then, I've been like, keep those things off of me. Life dishes out some pretty great things. So even if you find the best hotel available anywhere, you're going to find that when you open the bathroom door, somebody else's boxers. Right? Just life is just constantly dishing up all kinds of interesting things. Welcome to our room for the night. We're outside of Panguitch, which is just Panguitch, Utah, just north of the Grand Canyon. It is so quiet out here. It is pretty awesome. Think about all of the good trips you've been on, all the expeditions, all the journeys, all the exploration kind of adventures, etc. One of the first things we typically do, we get all the gear out in advance. We spread it around, we try on the boots, we make sure everything's all fit and stitched and ready to go, because when you're on the mountain, sure as heck, you're going to have some parts sit back at home. So on each of my Trans Ams, I packed months and months in advance, and along with the itinerary and the logistics planning came all of the gear. Why is gear so important? Well, if you don't have the right tools, the trip's a lot harder. If you don't know what's coming, because you don't plan properly for the unexpected, it's going to be much more difficult and possibly futile or a failure. So, we're going to talk about this one. This is the Clifton Strengths Finders. And this is one of the most important assessments in my belief system that you will take. Aside from possibly a Asperger's for a few of you guys that are visuals. And you and I will have a talk about that one. Clifton Strengths Finders. You don't need to buy the book. You just need to take the assessment. You can get that online. There's usually a code in the back. The book just sort of describes 38 strengths. So rather than working at your weaknesses to fix them, rather than trying to figure out what's wrong with you and break and fix what's broken, rather than trying to fix what's broken by going through the assessment of, oh, you're so messed up, you have all these. No, let's start at the top. Let's find out what your strengths are. So this will give you, and I am not licensed, trained, certified, or any of that as a shrink, psychiatrist, psychologist, none of it. Don't believe what I say, test what I say. I found my strengths were my strengths offenders. What do I mean by that? I mean, when I discovered my strengths, which were, here, I'll put these up right here: achiever, learner, input, activator, belief. I pedaled across America 3 times. I've got 8 world records in IT production. Where's that achiever come from? Well, first off, understand those strengths, right? Our top strengths. This is our normal. Can I do an N? This is our normal. Our normal. Not everybody else's normal. Everybody else's normal's down in here, and they all have their strengths. And guess what? As soon as we feel uncomfortable, tested, tried, pushed away, offended, as soon as we get afraid, as soon as there's stuff that triggers from inside of us, from things that assault us, confuse us, as soon as that happens, we fall back on our top strengths and assume the rest of the world will catch up with us. And you know what happens? We offend them. How do we offend them? Our normal's not their normal. We don't see things the way they are. We see things the way we are. Our confirmation bias, our cliques, our belief system. Think of the Beverly Hillbillies. You remember that truck that they had? And it got piled up and piled up and piled up and piled up. That's how our belief systems are. The things that we experience in childhood that we have no worldview to explain, we add some baggage onto it. And we add more baggage. And as we go through our high school years and hormone years and all that sort of stuff, we add more and more and more baggage. And we click away on the internet. And pretty soon we've got an unwieldy Beverly Hillbillies truck inside of us in our belief system. And you know how this works? It's beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors. So the way that this works to get self-awareness and self-understanding and then self-actualization, the way that that process works, the journey up the hill, is by a whole bunch of iterations, thousands of times that you're going to use some of these tools. We're going to go far in depth with them over our time together in private, but here on YouTube and in public, I'll simply say, all that crap that you're packing in your bag right now, all those episodes that I've been trying to do, scotomas, illusions, iterations in dealing with change, right? All of these principles are coming into play. They're the the tools, not garbage, the tools laying on the snowfield or all around your bedroom, wherever we're packing up at. We start with our belief system. It comes from our wounds. We build an attitude. Whether we're open, we're closed, we're hostile, we're half full, half empty cup, however that is. And then we have our behaviors. And our behaviors give us experiences and outcomes. And so therefore we have more things that we pile on, and we pile on and we pile on. And we're going to start unpacking all that. It's a lot of work. Here's what happens. You become aware of a behavior, a bad behavior, a trigger. Just look at what I just demonstrated there. Things will set you emotionally afire. And what most guys do, shut it down. They stuff it. And you know what? It goes and finds another organ. If it can't deal with it here, it's going to go give you illness somewhere else. Check out the one on gut, right? So, triggers, these emotional flares, are like with an onion. They're the outer layer. When we talk about peeling onions, that's the idea of being able to start from the outside trigger. Ask yourself, what? That behavior's bad. What's that attitude? Not good. What causes it? What's my belief? What's the belief that I have that supports that kind of attitude and that kind of behavior? You may have to go into diffuse time. I had to take the trash out a lot. Fortunately, it was about a block away that I had to take it every time, so it was a good long walk. And diffuse time is also meditation, or it's sleep, or it's time out doing something like cycling or swimming, or completely non-focused time, non-work of your character. So you become aware of a behavior. Ask yourself, good, bad? You know, what kind of attitude is that, Dad? Right? What's the belief? This is the investigative period. You start asking that. And the thing is, you've got so many decades of this belief system built up that what happens is you'd like to be lazy and settle for the first reason you come up with. That's the way my dad was. That's garbage. No, that's the way you choose to go. Why do you choose to go that way? So you peel back another layer of the onion, and you continue again and again and again until you'll have a memory that troubles you. You'll have childhood memories. You'll be able to get back at this. You may get it in the middle of swimming, running, rowing, whatever it is you're doing, just sitting quietly, praying, singing to yourself. This will happen where you'll go, whoa. And I've had childhood memories back as young as probably 6 months old, where I understand what I started having an experience and packing on false beliefs. And that's what we're trying to get at. Once we find a core belief, we can rewire it. Brain plasticity allows us an opportunity to rewire our brain. Here's a real-time example of all this stitched together. The Clifton Strengths Finders, in my opinion, measures your reactive behavior. That comes from your coping mechanisms, from your childhood wounds. You can use the assessment to kind of find out what your strengths are, but your strengths are your most practiced behaviors. And here's how it works for me. They are a direct indicator on early memories, so I can peel back that onion. So this morning, we're in a hotel course, and this morning at about 5 o'clock, 5:15, people start stomping around, banging on things, dropping stuff, and I wake up an hour and a half later and I am just exhausted and tense and feeling my chest has been pounding and I've been afraid. And I have to ask myself, okay, where's this come from? The first memory that comes when I'm waking is my stepdad was an undercover narcotics agent in the San Francisco Bay Area in the 1960s. His practice was kick a door down, shoot everything that moved, and when the dust settled, figure out who was guilty. So he would work the graveyard shift and come home early in the morning, very early, pound around, and then go to bed. So I learned that if I had the house perfectly clean, I stayed up later to clean as much as I could, or I did double duty and did the garage and the dog pen and the stable and the cow pen and chicken, everything. I did it all. Then there would be less trouble for me in the morning. See, that's the achiever. Where's the learner? When I got a chance to escape, I would read Danny Dunn books and try to stay in bed on Saturdays. Right? That bookmobile was, I owned it, man. Everything in it I read. So I can look back through my strengths and discover what those wounds are and deal with them as an adult and talk with them with Angelina as you can with your spouse, and that can start the process of becoming aware, which then leads you to understanding, which then leads you up the mountain through lots of iterations, and you get it, I think, right? Okay, enough. And this is where sleep comes in. Your brain, I'll put a TED Talk here, right? How important is sleep? Critical. In this process, you're going to wake up in the middle of the night and your pillow is going to be soaked. Why? Because you're using your muscles, and the only time you can get rid of that garbage, the toxins, from rewiring your brain is while you sleep, because that's when your cerebral fluid is transferred in and out of your brain. Therefore, the only time you can actually recover from these intense memories and rewire those dendrites and come out with a new belief system, attitude, and then behaviors is by iterations of sleep and iterations of practice like this in the mirror. That's why you're going to be able to shoot videos and be transparent and be authentic. You know why? Because you don't care anymore. You've already talked to yourself so much in the mirror with affirmations and with questioning and digging in, peeling that onion and finding out what those real beliefs are behind it. Just like we do with farm animals, domesticated animals. We're only going to be useful to the ruling elite algorithms for our provision of their data. Telling the rest of the world, who cares? Because half the time you find out more about yourself when you go tell somebody. But I know how to get to where I'm at. And I am going to show you if you're willing to come. So let's get out some of these tools. Let's have a meetup. Let's do a dialogue together. And let's find out. Let's go exploring, right? Your own personal Everest. We've come to expect when we put our 50 bucks in, we get $100 of value, or some way of measuring exactly what's going on with us. But self-awareness and self-understanding doesn't exactly work that way. It's more of a sense of contentment and not so much milestones that you can remember other than memories. That's a weird way to say it, but I don't know. I was just trying to come up with something to say while we were at this really interesting piece. It's called Glen Canyon, a power station. And so there's Angelina trying to give me B-roll. Right? That's good.
We're filming together.
Yeah. B-roll.
Dweebs. Happy Wednesday.
Yeah, right.
You're a good student, honey. Good student of mine.
You hear that? There you go. She'll take credit and give a milestone for that. That's perfect. All right, I'll shoot that one in there.